I don't remember how long I've worked at the Broken Hart. Our small tavern nestled deep in the heart of Thornwood. It feels like I've always been here, serving ale to weary travelers, tending the hearth and sweeping the floor when the last of the patrons stumble out into the night. The days blur together, one after the other, like the steady flow of the stream that runs behind the tavern, its waters as dark and murky as my memories. My name is Lila, though sometimes I wonder if that's really true. Names are strange things, after all, given to us by our parents, by the ones who loved us once. But love is a fleeting thing, isn't it? Like the wind through the trees. There one moment and gone the next, leaving only silence in its wake. Perhaps I had another name once, in another life. But that life is gone, and all I have now is this place, this tavern, these walls that echo the laughter of men and the clink of tankards. The tavern is old, older than anyone remembers. The beams creak and groan as if they're sighing under the weight of countless winters. The walls are dark with soot and age, and the floors are worn smooth by the passage of many feet. There's a fire that burns in the hearth, a small flickering flame that struggles to warm the cold, damp air, and there's a smell of stale ale, spilled wine, and something else, something I can't quite place. It lingers in the corners, clings to the walls, and settles in the cracks of the floorboards. I've grown accustomed to it, though sometimes it makes me uneasy, like a whisper just beyond the edge of hearing. The villagers come and go, filling the tavern with their stories, their laughter, and their grief. They don't see me, not really. To them I'm just the barmaid, the one who brings their drinks, listens to their tales, and offers a smile when needed. I don't mind. It's easier that way, being invisible. They talk freely when they think no one's listening, and their secrets spill out as easily as the ale from their tankards. It was on a night like any other when he came. The rain was falling hard, a relentless downpour that beat against the windows and turned the roads to mud. The tavern was nearly empty, save for a few regulars huddled close to the fire, their faces shadowed by the dim light. I was behind the bar, wiping down the counter with a rag that had seen better days, when the door creaked open, and a gust of wind blew in, carrying with it the smell of wet earth and decaying leaves. He stood in the doorway, tall and lean, with a hood pulled low over his face. Water dripped from his cloak, pooling on the floor around his boots. For a moment he didn't move, just stood there, as if listening to something only he could hear. Then he stepped inside, closing the door behind him with a soft click. I watched as he approached the bar, his movements slow and deliberate, like a man with all the time in the world. He sat down on one of the stools, his back to the room, and pulled off his hood. His hair was dark, almost black, and his skin pale, with a sharpness to his features that made him look like he'd been carved from stone. It was his eyes that caught my attention, deep, dark, and hollow, like two empty wells that went on forever. "What can I get you?" I asked, trying to ignore the chill that had settled in my bones.
"Ale,"
he said, his voice low and rough, like a growl of a distant storm. I nodded and turned to fill a tankard from the keg behind the bar. My hands were steady, but I could feel his eyes on me, watching, weighing. When I placed the tankard in front of him, he didn't drink right away. Instead, he stared into the dark liquid, as if searching for something. Is there anything else you need? I asked, more to fill the silence than anything else. He looked up at me then, and I saw something in his eyes. Something that made my heart skip a beat. It was a look of recognition, as if he knew me, though I was certain I had never seen him before. "You've been here a long time, haven't you?" he said, not answering my question. "Yes," I replied, unsure of where he was going. "Longer than most, I'd wager." I nodded, though I didn't know what he meant by that. "I suppose so." He smiled, a cold, thin smile that didn't reach his eyes. "This place, it's like a cage, isn't it?" "A cage?" "A place where you can't leave even if you wanted to." I frowned. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't you?" He leaned forward, his eyes boring into mine. "Do you ever wonder why you're still here, Lila? Why you never left, even when you had the chance?" The way he said my name sent a shiver down my spine. "Who are you?" "Just a traveler, passing through." "I don't believe you." He chuckled, a low, humorous sound. "You're right not to." I took a step back, my hand gripping the edge of the bar. "What do you want?" "I want to help you," he said, his tone softening, almost gentle. "But first, you need to remember." "Remember what?" "Why you're here, what you've done." I shook my head, a cold sweat breaking on my forehead. "I haven't done anything." "Haven't you?" He stood up, towering over me, his presence filling the room. "Think, Lila. Think about the nights, the missing travelers, the blood on your hands." "No," I whispered, my voice trembling. "That's not true." "Isn't it?" He took a step closer, his shadow falling over me. "You've been here so long you've forgotten. But it's time to remember. Time to face the truth." I stumbled back, my mind reeling, images flashing before my eyes, faces twisted in pain and fear, hands reaching out, pleading, the feel of warm blood on my skin. I clutched my head, trying to block them out, but they came anyway, relentless, overwhelming. "No," I gasped, sinking to my knees. "No, it's not true. It can't be true." But deep down I knew. The memories were there, buried beneath layers of time and denial. But they were real as the tavern around me. The faces of the travelers I had served, the ones who never left, the ones who disappeared into the night, never to be seen again. "You're lying," I cried, tears streaming down my face. "You're lying." But he wasn't. I knew, I could see it in his eyes. The truth laid before me, undeniable and cold. I had done it. I had killed them. I didn't remember how or why, but the blood was on my hands, and it would never wash away. "Why?" I sobbed, curling into myself. "Why did I do it?" He knelt beside me, his hands gentle on my shoulder. "Because you were lost, Lila. Lost in the darkness, in the pain. This place, it's a part of you, just as you a part of it. You were drawn to it, and it consumes you." "No," I whispered, shaking my head. "No, I don't want this." "But it happened," he said softly, "and now you must face it." I looked up at him, my vision blurred by tears. "What do I do?" "Let go," he said, his voice like a balm on my broken soul. "Let go, and you can be free." Free. The word hung in the air, taunting me, mocking me. Could I really be free? Could I leave this place, this cage of my own making? A flicker of hope sparked within me, but it was quickly smothered by a familiar darkness. "No," I said, my voice steadying as the haze of confusion began to clear. "No, I can't leave." "You can," he insisted, his eyes full of pity. "You don't have to stay here. You don't have to keep doing this." "But I do," I replied, my voice hardening, "because this is who I am." His expression faltered, a shadow of doubt crossing his features. "Lila, you don't have to be this way. You can stop." I stood, feeling the weight of the dagger in my apron pocket. The cold steel a comforting reminder of the only thing that made sense anymore. "No, I can't stop. I won't stop." His eyes widened as he saw the glint of the blade, but by then it was too late. In one swift motion I plunged the dagger into his chest, the tip driving deep into his heart. He gasped, his eyes locking onto mine, shock and betrayal written across his face. I held the hilt, watching as the life drained from him, his body slumping against the bar, his blood pooled on the counter, dark and viscous, mingling with the spilled ale. For a moment I felt a pang of something. Regret? Sorrow? But it was fleeting, quickly replaced by a cold, hollow satisfaction. He had come to free me, to save me from myself, but he didn't understand. No one did. This place, this tavern. He was right about one thing. It was a part of me, and I a part of it. The darkness that lived within these walls lived within me as well, and there was no escaping it. I wiped the dagger on his cloak and slipped it back into my apron, my hands steady once more. The tavern was quiet, the only sound the crackling fire in the hearth. I looked around, feeling the familiar comfort of the shadow closing in, enveloping me in its embrace. The rain continued to fall outside, a relentless downpour that would soon wash away all the blood from me and my soul, leaving no trace of what had happened here tonight. Just like all the others, he would be forgotten, his disappearance just another mystery, another story told by villagers over their ale. I moved to the door, locking it and barring it shut. There would be no more visitors tonight. The fire would burn low, the shadows would deepen, and I would sleep as I always did, until the dawn came and the cycle began anew. I took one last look at the man's lifeless body, his eyes now staring blankly at the ceiling. His words echoed in my mind, words of freedom, of hope, of escape, but they meant nothing to me. I was the broken heart, and the broken heart was me. I walked back behind the bar, feeling the familiar rhythm of the tavern settle over me like a warm blanket. The man had been wrong. This was not a cage. This was my sanctuary, my haven, and I would stay here, forever if need be, doing what I was meant to do. Tomorrow there would be more travelers, more faces, more blood, and I would welcome them as I always did, with a smile and a tankard of ale, because in the end, they all belong to me. The tavern, the shadows, the blood, and I would never let them go.